Oops, wrong one. Now we're live. Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Van Milligan. This is RockSim Live. I am so happy to be here. Things are running a lot smoother than they were last week. Last week we had computer problems and it was just running really slow. You know, I was looking at my monitor and things were like 50 seconds later, you know, I would raise my hand and I'd look at the monitor and about 50 seconds later my hand would grow up. It's like, that can't be right. And then the screen went crazy and I don't know what was going on. I restarted my computer 2 times and it didn't do anything. But the third time I restarted it, which was after we had concluded, it worked fine. So yeah, it was a struggle to get through it. We didn't get through the whole episode like we normally do, and I apologize for that. Like I said, it was just a weird quirk. If you are new here, this is where we're going to talk about RockSim software, RockSim Pro, and the Launch Visualizer. They're all kind of a bundle of programs that do very similar things. It depends on your level of expertise and how much you're willing to invest in it. So, you know, if you just want to dip your toes in, you probably want to use the Launch Visualizer. If you want to do a little bit more, then RockSim, and then if you want to do everything, RockSim Pro. So those are our 3 programs that we cover here in this program. If you are brand new, go ahead. We got the chat running on YouTube, so you can go ahead and type in your name and where you're from, and we'd like to recognize you. We're here to answer questions, so if you have a RockSim question, RockSim Pro, or Launch Visualizer question, go ahead and ask that now, and we will answer them in this episode. I have no agenda. I have no pre-planned questions this week. So I am totally dependent on your participation. Okay, so we have Roadkill Raker says hello. Carlos K says, here's hoping that Michelle's set up for today. What does that mean? Does that mean that Michelle could set things up better? Well, obviously, but and we have High Tech FL. I think he is from Florida. It's hard to tell. There's a lot of people viewing, but not a lot of people talking. We have Terry Wheelock says howdy. That's cool. Hello, Terry. Let me show you my screen while we're waiting for questions. So I got a monitor over here. That's why I'm looking off to the side all the time. I'm just looking at my monitor. So this is the Apogee website. Our address is apogeerockets.com. And if you come here, and if I go to the home page, you'll see an ad for the Launch Visualizer. This is a banner ad. And then we got to sign up for a newsletter, some kits, a link to RockSim. You can click on that. We're doing RockSim training right now, and that's RockSim Training Live. If you click on this banner here, it takes you to our archives where you can see all the previous episodes that we've done. Today is July 29th, so this is our 80th episode. And once we're done, probably next week sometime, probably Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll upload or update this page. We'll give you the new link to the YouTube, the exact link that you can click on, and then all the topics that we talked about, and then the timestamps of where in the video we talked about them. Also, if you're new, you want to learn more about RockSim, you go here to the How To and Guides menu, click on that, come down here to Software, click on Software, and this is our home page for RockSim. We have the free trial that you can download, where to purchase it, you know, just the basic information. What is RockSim? What is it all about? That's what that is. The features of RockSim, the frequently asked questions, system requirements. We do have some news on that. On the Macintosh, if you're running Macintosh, we're coming out with a new update to fix some things. But the problem with that new update is older versions of Mac operating system going in its El Capitan system. So if you're on Catalina like I am, or there's actually two newer versions of the Mac OS. Let's see, I'm on About This Mac, and it will see I'm on Catalina. That's the name of the operatings. They give them these weird names, but it's actually version 10.15. And then there's 10.16, 10.17, which is the latest one. And then I think they're working on a 10.18. So Apple is like spitting them out as fast as they can, these new operating systems. You know, the new features, and most of the time they're like security upgrades. But the older versions, I think it's like 10.13 is El Capitan. I'm not sure exactly which one, but that's the one we're gonna, RockSim 10 won't work on. So if you have an old version of Mac and you see the new upgrade, check your system requirements here before you do the upgrade. We are getting, our programmers are kicking into gear now, and they are fixing bugs like crazy. And the bugs that we're fixing now are not bugs in the software per se. What we're concentrating on are bugs that, I wouldn't even call them bugs, just things that cause it to be hard to install the software, not running the software, just getting it installed and working. You know, 80% of all the questions that we get on the phone when people call us up are, how do I get RockSim working on my computer? You know, it's the license keys and the license files and just installing. You know, we have to be able to install on Windows and Mac, and then all the flavors, you know, like 10.15, 10.16, 10.17. It has a lot of work, which is why I always say this all the time. That's why our launch visualizer, we put it in the cloud. So cloud software is, you don't have to load any software, and all those issues that customers have go away. If I open up a new window here, and if I go to the RockSim page, and it's rocksim.com, and you can do this at any time, it will load it up. It's loading the software in the background on your web browser, and this is what it looks like. It's going to load a rocket here as soon as it's done loading. It's loading the launch pad, and there's the rocket sitting on the pad, and you can see it's full 3D. And when we launch this, we're going to get a 3D perspective of the launch, so that's like really cool. So that's what cloud software is all about. It's to make it easy for everybody, including us, but particularly for users, because once you have it, you don't have any problems loading it. Then it's just an internet connection problem. Is, you know, do you have a connection to the internet? And most people do, so that's not usually a problem. Okay, so that's what RockSim is, and there's video tutorials, and I already showed you the RockSim Live training page right there, and then there's other little tidbits over here on the side of the page. All right, so let me go to our questions. We got Roadkill Raker. He says it's 6 a.m. He's watching on the island of Guam. Holy cow. It's already tomorrow there. Wow. That is so cool. We got our first question. Does RockSim run in Linux? And the answer is no. And the reason is, I hope you understood the frustrations that we go through here just trying to keep it running on Windows and Mac. You know, if we have to do another operating system of Linux, it's just too hard on us. So we could do it on Linux, but we have made the choice not to because we just can't support it. And if, you know, you put your money down on the table and you expect it to work and you expect it to, you know, just so you can use it, and we can't support it, you have a question, and you call us up and, what's a Linux? You know, that's not going to make you happy. So in order to circumvent those problems, we've just, you know, at this time, we're not doing Linux. I'm sorry. I really am. Terry Wheelock says, I think I about have how to apply textures. And he's giving me the thumbs up and the peace sign and another face sign, but I'm not sure what it is. So is that a question, Terry, like you want to know how to apply textures or you figured it out? If you want to learn how to do it, we can do it here, but if you figured it out, we can ask somebody else's question. We have Robert Monday here. He's from Newport Richey, Florida. That's cool. I used to know where that was when I lived in Florida. I lived in Cape Canaveral, Florida, when I was working at the Cape, launching big rockets. Carlos says, since I hate external drag sources as well as weight that I can avoid, can you show a Roxim file with one internal shear pin, which we insert as we load the recovery device? Okay, we can do that. High Tech FL says, it's okay for now, I can run it using Wine in Linux. Okay, so he's got a Windows emulator there that he's running it in, so at least he's running it on his Linux machine. Okay, so let's go to Roxim and answer Carlos's question. He wants to do a shear pin. Okay, so let's open a rocket design. So I'm in Roxim. I can see it's just Roxim here, not Roxim Pro. Let's open up this one, the Hornet. Okay, so this is just your basic, you know, tubes and fins rocket. So this is what it looks like. I can come over here to 3D and we can see the rocket in 3D, and then we can rotate it around and see it at different perspectives. Adding a shear pin. So shear pin, if you are unfamiliar with shear pins, if you go to the Apogee website and you type in shear pin, and here are two different kinds. We have the large version and the small version. So this is a nylon shear pin. You can see they're just little tiny screws. I mean, these things are really tiny. This is just a little bit over 1/4 inch long. That's how small they are. And what you do is you have two parts of your rocket and you want to join them together, and you want to keep them joined together because sometimes when you're launching a rocket, and this happens on big rockets a lot, big diameters like 4-inch diameter, and particularly 4-inch diameter rockets that are on high thrust motors and that take off really fast. So what happens is your rocket has pressure inside of it. There's air inside your rocket, you know. And when you cap it off with a nose cone and an engine, it kind of becomes like a little pressure chamber. And it has that pressure air inside of it. And you know, and at sea level, that's 14 psi. So you got 14 psi of air in your rocket, and then when it takes off and it goes up in altitude, up high in the air, the pressure decreases as the rocket goes up, you know, from sea level all the way up to no air pressure in space. But inside your rocket, you're still at 14 psi because that air is still in there and it wants to come out. And so as the pressure on the outside of the rocket reduces, you got a difference between the inside and the outside, and that air on the inside, it wants to get out, and so it will push things apart. And usually it can push the rocket nose off while the rocket is still moving up. And like I said, this happens on big diameter rockets because pressure, is a force. Pressure is area, this is the diameter of the rocket, so you're taking the circular area. The area is pi times diameter squared divided by 4. That's your area, and then you multiply it by the difference in pressure. And that gives you pounds per square inch of pressure pushing on the base of the nose cone, trying to push it off. So if your rocket goes up high really fast, there's a big pressure difference between the nose, the outside air pressure and inside air pressure, and it wants to push the nose off. And that only bad things happen when the nose cone comes off when the rocket's going up. Because the motor is pushing, the nose is going this way, and then you get a rocket that, in fact, I had a picture that I was just looking at a little while ago of exactly that. Let's see if I can find it real quick, show you what it looks like. It's on my desktop. Old rocketry photos. And let me see if I can find it. Right there. So that's what it looks like. Your rocket is still burning and the nose cone is off and it's just spinning around and whacking into things, and only bad things are happening. So you don't want your nose cone coming off prematurely. So what you do to keep it from coming off prematurely is, like shown here, we have the nose cone right here, we have the tube right here, and we're going to put a little tiny shear pin inside of that goes through the nose cone and the tube, and it locks them together. But it still has, the nose cone eventually has to come off. And so when the ejection charge goes off, it increases the pressure in there, and the pressure is just so much that that shear pin, it actually just cuts in half, and that's why we call it shear. It's going to shear in half, allowing the nose cone to come off and the parachute to come out. And so shear pins are mostly used on large diameter rockets that are going to be flown with big rocket motors, because this is where it happens. So Carlos's question is, how do you add a shear pin to this rocket? Well, the shear pin, if you look at it, it's just going to be a little bump on the outside of the rocket. Does it account for drag? Yes. How much drag? I don't know. Probably nothing. It's just a little bump. If you want to account for the drag, Carlos, what you would do is you would probably adjust the coefficient of drag. So every rocket, there's a tab here along the top that says CD override. And RockSim is going to pre-calculate the CD value, and you can see what it calculates it as. If you go under rocket, come down to CD analysis. And you select your velocity down here. So I'm just using the slider bar. Right now I'm at 260 miles per hour. And it predicts the CD right here is going to be 0.6. So now you got a little bump on the outside of your rocket. How much extra is that coefficient drag going to go up? Probably not a lot. Definitely, it's not going to go from 0.6 to 0.7. It's going to be less than 0.1%. So maybe 0.61. It's minuscule. It's really not going to affect the flight of the rocket, Carlos. I know you want to reduce drag by adding a shear pin, but adding the shear pin really is not going to increase drag. It's just going to be the same. You're going to get the same altitude every time with a shear pin or without. because it's not producing that much drag. It is adding weight. How much weight? Okay, so let me close this. Go back to our website. I'm on the shear pin page. Here's the weight of one shear pin, 0.02 grams. So a rocket typically has 3 of those, so we're looking at 0.06 grams. Now, how much does 1 gram weigh? Think of a small paper clip. That's about 1 gram. So we're at 0.06 of 1 gram. It's like nothing. Your paint on your rocket weighs more than all your shear pins together. So you could use a mass object. So if you really wanted to, so you're going to select where on your rocket it goes, and I'm going to put it, right here. So I'm going to add a new component. So I'm going to go Rocket Design Components right here. I'm going to go to the body tube, because that's where it's going to be added to, and then come over here to Mass Object. So the Mass Object, we have different mass objects, but there's no shear pins in here because they weigh so little that it's really not really why, I wouldn't add it myself, but you could. So I'm going to click Cancel from the database. I'm still in the mass object, adding a mass object, so I'll call this shear pin. I'm going to call it shear pins because there's 3 of them. And it's going to be 0.06 grams. And then the location, I'm going to move it from right here to right there. So I went from a mass and click OK. So now my mass of the rocket is 50 grams exactly. So that's adding a shear pin. But they're so insignificant, Carlos, that I wouldn't even bother with it. Having shear pins have nothing to do with launch lugs. It's the whole purpose of a shear pin is just to keep the rocket together as it's going upwards, so that the nose cone doesn't come off prematurely as the rocket's going up. So that was a good question, though. So we're learning about rockets and why you might want to use a shear pin. So we sell 2 different sizes. We sell the small one, which probably is for any rockets that you're going to build, and then we have the larger version, which is larger in diameter, and I would say that one is for like rockets that are 8 inches in diameter or larger. The small ones are probably fine. Okay. Okay, Terry Wheelock says, textures are like black magic art. And he's right. It is like black magic. So I will show you how to add textures to a rocket. So let me go over to here, and I have to remember to turn off my camera. So what is a texture? So I have 2 different rockets here. One has a texture on it and one doesn't. This one does not. It's just raw balsa wood. This one has been painted, and the textures are those decals on the rocket. So when we talk about adding a texture, it's not like adding something fuzzy or something like carpet to your rocket that gives physical texture. These are decals. So maybe we should have called them decals, but we call them textures. The reason I got these 2 rockets is this one is brand new, the Estes Super Orbital Transport. We're still in the process of building ours. This is the original Orbital Transport, and Estes came out with the one called the Super Orbital Transport, and you can see how much bigger it is. And we just got these in this week. We got them in on, we turned them live on our website on Monday. By Tuesday we had sold out. But it's now Friday, and we just got a whole bunch more in stock. So this one, adding the textures to, was pretty hard. And this is the box that the Super Orbital Transport came in, so you can see that. Okay, so adding decal textures. So let me go back to my screen. I am going to need a graphics program because we're going to have graphics on this rocket. Okay, so come on. My Illustrator. Oh, it's opening. It's opening up on this screen over here. So we're going to apply textures to this rocket. And if you look at it in 3D, right now all we have is a black nose cone, yellow body tube, and fins. And this rocket is called a Hornet. Let's see if I can find a picture of it. Hornet. Okay, so it's called the Magnum Hornet. So this is what it looks like. And unfortunately, you can't see it. But it just has the textures on this rocket is we have the name of the rocket, Magnum Hornet. And then on the fin, we have a decal for the manufacturer, and that was Semrock. So we will do both of these. So we'll do the tube first. So I'm going to go into my drawing program and first create artwork. So I'm going to create a new drawing. It has to start up. And then we're going to apply it to this rocket. So first I'm going to over here. And you're on your own as far as creating the artwork. I'm just showing you how I do it. So Magnum Hornet. Just trying to match the fonts here. So I'm moving, let me move this over here so we can see it. And we have two different fonts here, so let's go. I need something big and bold. Here we go. We'll call it Arial Black. And they're both italics. Arial Black. And they're italic. Oh, I don't have a regular. I'm looking for another bold font that's similar. We'll try that one. It's not quite the same as this one. And now we need to know how big that is. Okay, so here's what I do when I'm drawing decals, because I want them to match the tube just right. So I go into RockSim. So here's our tube. And if you click on the tube, it highlights the tube and then highlights it in the parts tree. So I'm going to open this up and I want to see the size of this tube. So it's 14 inches long and it has an outside diameter of 1.32. So we're gonna make the decal like the tube. We're gonna just unwrap the tube. So imagine taking a tube, slicing it down the side, and then making it flat. So so we need an area, the same area as the surface area of the tube. So we have a cylinder. So what's the surface area of a cylinder? It's the length times the circumference of the tube. So I'm going to draw a box on my piece of paper here, and I'm in millimeters, and I have to switch to inches. I was in points. Okay, so my rulers are now in. I'm going to need to make a bigger sheet of paper because this one is an 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to have to make it at least 14 inches long. And we'll start there. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a box, and this box is going to be 14 inches long, but I don't know the width yet. But I know the diameter is 1.32 inches. So what's the circumference is, the circumference of a circle is 1.32, which is the diameter, times pi. So in my program, I'm going to go into the transform menu, and so I got the height is 14 inches, which is right, but my width is wrong. My width needs to be 1.32 times, I don't know if you can see it way up here, it's very small, times pi. Pi is 3.1415926 something or another. And then when I hit enter, it's going to tell me exactly what it was. And now I can go back in here, it's 4.1469 inches. So this black box is my wrap that's going to go around the tube. And on that wrap, I need the word Magnum Hornet. So first I need to color my decal, and this one is yellow. So I'm going to make this decal yellow. So I'm going to go over here to the color, activate my color palette, and then go into the yellows right here, and then select a yellow color. I'll go 255, 255, and 0. And that way I'll know exactly what color it is. So now that's yellow. And then I got my decal here of the Magnum Hornet, and this is the confusing part, Terry. The confusing part is when you're drawing it like this, the top of the rocket is actually the bottom of the sheet of paper. So when I put this Magnum Hornet on here, I have to remember that the nose cone is down here at the bottom. But first I want to make this larger, and then I wanted to make it italic. What's going on here? I still can't make it italic. So that's just because of the stupid font. But I can italicize it by converting. I got in the program that I'm using, Adobe Illustrator. Oh, don't be giving me the spinny ball. There it goes. I have a way to stylize it. I can warp it, and I can, let's see, stylize. I forget which one it is. Arc, bulge, wave, squeeze, twist. I think I might be able to grab a corner. Or there's another way. I know another way. Go to my type, create outlines. Okay, and now if I effect, stylize. Where is that? Warp. Well, I can't. What the heck is going on here? Shear. All right, I'm going to shear it. There we go. Now I got it italicized. So anyway, we're just making something that will try to look good on this rocket. And I'm going to, oops, the reason my thing went away is because I'm on the wrong layer. I'll go to layer. I got two layers. I need this layer on top. Okay, so here's my tube, and then make this decal the size that you want it. Then slide it down to here. All right, so then now I need to export this as my decal. And your decal, the format could be PNG, JPEG, or GIF. So I'm going to save it, save as, and I'm going to go format, I can't export it. I can't save as. I gotta do an export. Export as. This will give me a different option. So I can do PNG, JPEG. We'll do it as a JPEG. I'm gonna put it on my desktop so I can find it. I'm gonna call it Magnum Hornet Decal. Hit export. Click OK. All right, so it put it on my desktop. So now I'm going to go back into RockSim. I'm just going to hide that screen for now. So here's my tube. I'm going to go to the texture menu. So I'm in the body tube. Okay, so that's what I'm editing. I'm going to go to texture. And this is the file that I need to choose. I'm going to go choose file. And then I'm going to go to my desktop. And then find that decal file. And click open. Right now I'm in 2D mode, so in order to see it I need to switch to 3D. Okay, so let's see. All right, there is my decal, and if you notice, it's flipped. So it's actually, I got two. I got one on one side and one on the other. Okay, so now I'm gonna start using some of these menus up here, these adjuster bars. First, let's uncheck repeat pattern and prevent seams. Okay, so now we just have one decal all the way around the rocket like we wanted to. Okay, and it is in the right orientation, but it's backwards. So let's see if we can flip it so it's the other way around. So I'm going to flip around the R axis and see what happens. So it flipped it, but then it kind of flipped it. You know, the top side was here. When it flipped it, now the top side is the palm of my hand instead of the back side. So let's do that. Flip around the S axis. So there it goes. So now I have my decal applied to the body tube. All right, so that one, the body tube is the easy one. The harder one is fins. Okay, so first on the fin, so here's my fin shape, and I'm going to edit the fin a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go back to 2D. Oops, come on. Come on. Okay, so I'm in 2D, and this is a custom fin. And custom fins, it looks like a trapezoid, but it's a custom fin, so it's drawn on the grid. So I can take my point, and I can change the shape of my fin like this. All right, and the reason I want an oddball shaped fin is because these are the hard ones to do. So I want to have that fin shape, and we're going to apply a decal to that. But first I need to know the exact size of this decal. So down here at the bottom of the screen, which is off of your screen, you can't see it, there's a button that says Export Template. And I want to export this fin template onto my computer. And so I'm going to click on that button. And I need to say where to export it. So I'm going to put it on the desktop so I can find it. It's going to call it the Hornet Fin Set. And notice the file format here. This is an SVG. You can also export it as an STL, which is actually for 3D printing. If you wanted to 3D print a fin, you'd choose STL. CSV will give you a chart-like Excel with all the points on it. That doesn't do me any good. But the SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphics. So this is a vector drawing. It's not a JPEG. It's not a PNG. It's scalable. So in order to open it, you need a program that can open vector drawings. And I use Adobe Illustrator on my computer. Adobe Illustrator is not cheap, and most people don't use it. If you don't use it, there's a program on the internet for free called Inkscape. And it's similar to Adobe Illustrator, which I was just using, and it's free. I don't know how to use it, so if you have questions about Inkscape, don't ask me because I can't help you. And if you have questions about Adobe Illustrator, don't ask me because you should be asking Adobe. So let's open that file that I just saved. So I'm in Illustrator. I'm going to do open. Here's my fin set right here. Open. And it opens it up, and you can see this is the fin shape. And it doesn't look like much right now, but the important thing is this is the exact size of the fin that we just did in RockSim. I need to silence my phone. Okay, so now we can apply a decal to this, and then we're going to import it back into RockSim. So first I want to just kind of rotate it around. And let's make this this bounding box. This is called a bounding box. It's kind of like the sheet size of your paper. When it imported the bounding box the exact same size as the fin. So now you can see my fin. So this is the root edge of the fin. This is the tip edge, and this is the trailing edge. So if you go back into RockSim, that's RockSim Pro. Where am I? RockSim. Here's RockSim. So you can see it has that shape. And I have just rotated it so that the rocket would be kind of like going straight up, because that's kind of how you look at a rocket. So now we can change the color of this, and I'm going to make it a yellow again. 255 and 255 and 0, and that's the yellow. Right now it's got a black line around the outside, and I'm going to get rid of that black line and just make it clear. So that's my fin. Now I can put artwork on it. So now I got to decide what kind of artwork. So I'm just going to use text for right now, and just type in Magnum Hornet and change the size of that. You know, this fin is full size, so how it appears here is how it's going to appear on my rocket when I import it. Let me change the font to something bold. This one's a little bit different. It still doesn't give me an italics version. Maybe I want to make the color a different color than black. Maybe I want to add, you know, some fire or something. You know, if you draw some fire, let me draw some fire. I'm going to try to freehand this. Where's my drawing tool? That's a blob brush. Scissors. I know there's a pen. There it is, pencil. So, okay, so we got the flames. These are like really bad flames, you know. And this, we're going to make it red on the bottom and yellow on the top. So I'm going to go to my appearance, and let's make it started as red. And there's a gradient tool here. Oops, so I gotta select my colors. Oops. So this is red, green, blue, and we'll make it a red color. And then on this end, we have to do the same thing. Change it to red, green, blue, and make it a yellow. See, now we got kind of fire, but it's kind of not the way we want it, so let's rotate it 90 degrees. Okay, so now we got fire, but we need to rotate it around so that the fire is coming off the bottom of the flame or the fins. Let's make it bigger. Oh, I'm covering up the name of the Magnum Hornet. So I need to move that on top. Okay, so I need to adjust my fire to keep my decal on the rocket. Oops. And I got this flame right there. Okay, so now we got flames on our rocket. So this is our decal that we want to apply. So again, as we did before, we're going to export it out as a, this time I'm going to export it out as a PNG file. And the reason is, I'll export it as both, a JPEG and a PNG, and I'll show you the difference. So export, right now it's SVG, we wanted to make it a PNG. I'm going to put it on the desk. I'm going to call it the Hornet Fin Decal, PNG. You can kind of see what's going to happen is, here's the fin. You can see see that checkerboard pattern? That means it's transparent. So the white that you saw here goes away. And we'll click OK on that. I can also export it as a JPEG, and we'll look at the difference. Export as JPEG, decal, hit export, click OK. Okay, so now we got our artwork made. Let's go back into RockSim. We're editing the fin, so we're going to go to the texture, and now we're going to choose the file. So here's the two fins. Let's start with the JPEG version, which is this one here in the top. Click open. Let's see it in 3D. Okay, so you can see the fin. You can see that it's oriented wrong. And again, we're going to uncheck all of these first, and then we're going to start clicking on these. Flipping it around the S-axis didn't do anything. Let's flip around the R-axis. That, at least, you know, I can read it. See, I can read the words here. Now, let's see this rotation right here. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. And see what happens. I'm going to just type in 90 degrees and hit tab, and that kind of sort of worked, but we're seeing white here. So now we need to maybe change the origin position. Let me rotate this around so you can. I'm trying to go vertical. There we go. That's our fin there. Let's flip it around the R-axis again. Okay, so now I can read it. And the origin, I'm just sliding it backwards until it eventually matches. Okay, so you'll see that one side of the fin matches pretty good, but if I spin the rocket around, the other side has been flipped. And unfortunately, it's because it's trying to apply that same decal to every fin. And this shape is actually different from that shape, but it can only apply, the fins are a set. And so when you apply a decal to one fin, it applies it to all the fins in the set. And that's what we're seeing here. If you wanted the decal, a different decal on each fin, you need to break the fins up so that they're not all in one set. Okay, so I've applied the decal to the rocket. So this was the JPEG, the PNG file. Let me show you how to do that. It's going to be identical, except for it comes in a little bit different. Well, actually, it came in just fine. But if you notice the edges here, they're a little bit different than they were when it was the JPEG. See, these ones are a little bit nicer looking. So you can play around with it and see which one looks best on your rocket. I'm going to click OK. So now I'm back on the main screen, and let's go to reset the camera, close. Okay, so now we can see we've got textures applied to the rocket. Now on these fins, if you want a different decal on each fin, what you have to do is you have to break this fin setup into multiple fins, and that's really easy to do in RockSim. So you just highlight the fin, and once it's highlighted, you'll see the button over here becomes active, split, which means I can split these fins into a number of fins. And as soon as I do that, it's giving you a message saying this operation cannot be undone. So once you do it, you can't undo it. Do you want to split this fin set up? And I'm going to say yes. And when I do, I'm going to have 4 fins here. So I'm going to click yes. And now you see I have 4 fins. And now I can put a different decal on each fin. So let me go here and make a different decal. I'll make it really simple. Let's just change the background color to black. Now I got to change my words because I can't see my words. Change that to white. Okay, so now it says Magnum Hornet. I'm going to kind of move things around just to make my decal a little bit nicer. Okay, and then File, Export as, and we'll do JPEG again, Hornet fin set. We'll call it black so we can tell it apart. Click Export, click OK. And now let's go back into RockSim. Okay, so now we have different fins. So I'm going to click on fin set number 2, and it highlights it, and you can see it's right here, this one. I'm going to edit. I'm going to go to texture. Zoom in here. I don't know which of the fins it is. We'll find out really quick though. So I hit choose file. Here's the black one. Click open. And you can see it just slapped it right on there. Really nice, actually. So the advantage of exporting out the template and then putting the artwork on the template like we just did is when you import it back in, normally you don't have to play with any of these adjuster bars. It should just slap it in place. The one caveat again is if you look at the back side of that fin, the words are backwards. But if you like it, click OK. Go back to reset camera, click close. And the fin that we were working on is on the back side, so I have to spin it around to see that fin. So that's fin number 2. You see when we split the fins, it labeled them for us. 1, 2, 3, 4. It kept the first part of the name, but it added the -1, the -2, -3, etc. So you can add any component in the rocket. It has a texture tab. but only the ones on the outside really make a difference. You can add a texture tab to the nose cone as well. Texture or a decal image to the nose cone as well. Let me check over here and see if there's any other questions. Terry Wheelock says, what is the largest width and length decal that RockSim will recognize? It should be unlimited. I can't think of a reason that we could. You can take a small image and blow it up, and you can take a big image and make it smaller. Let me go back to this decal here. So I'm on fin decal number 2, which is the black fin. And if I go to the texture tab, notice there is a scale slider right here. Right now we're at 100% or 1.000. And then I got a slider bar over here. I can, oops, I'm changing the rotation. Or my rotation was 90? 90. I can go here to the scale. I can make it smaller. And it scales in both length and width. So you can see what it's doing back here. And if you're starting out with a small image and you want to make it bigger, what you do is you type in a value here. So if I type in 2.0 and over here 2.0, now I've scaled it up 2 times. So if your decal is really small, you can expand it as big as you want. But just remember, this is a bitmap image, so you're taking a pixel and you're making the pixel larger. The difference between a bitmap and a vector is a bitmap is pixels, and you're expanding them. Where a vector is like a line. It has a start point and an end point and a path. And the path can be any infinite width, and you can zoom in on it and zoom in on it and zoom in on it, and it's not getting any thicker because it's just a line connecting the 2 points. Until you apply a thickness to it, it's just a hairline. What we're applying in this image is a bitmap. What we exported out, the template, we exported out as a vector. So it was just the points and then lines between the points. Vectors are what engineers love because no matter how big or small you make it, it's still crisp and clean. I love vectors. When we do instructions in our kits, we draw everything in vectors. So if I go to an Apogee kit, what's one of the latest ones that we've done? If I come down here to view rockets by manufacturer, if I come down to Apogee, like airmail, if I click on the airmail and you look at our instruction sheet where it says download the instruction sheet right here, and if I scroll down, this is a bitmap image, this is a vector image. These are vector images as well, and the advantage of a vector image is if I can zoom in, zoom in, and zoom in, and zoom in, and this doesn't change. You know, the line is still as crisp and clean as it started with. Where if I go to a bitmap image like this, and if I zoom in, eventually, it's getting fuzzier and fuzzier. You can start to see the squares of each of the tiny little pixels. So that's the difference between a bitmap and a vector, and why I like vectors. All of our instructions are vectors, so that when you print them out on your printer and your toner cartridge is low, normally when you do that, a bitmap image will start to look really faint and gray. But a vector image will still be nice and crisp. And that's the other reason that here at Apogee we always make our illustrations in vector. It takes a lot longer because you can't just take a pencil and draw it. You actually have to draw it on the computer, and the program that we use is Adobe Illustrator, which I was just using. All this is vector. So Terry Wheelock says the proportions just need to remain the same, and the answer, Terry, is yes. So if you're taking a decal and you're scaling it up 200%, both the the length scale up and the width scale up have to be 200%. So yes, make them the same. Carlos says there are folks on the internet that already have most rockets and can scale them if you are lazy like me. I already have most rockets and can scale them. That's cool. So scaling in RockSim is easy to do as well. Click OK. When I was working on these Estes kits, I got two kits that are identical. This one I put into RockSim, I don't know how many years ago. It might have been like 2008. This one I just put in on Friday. And what I did, I cheated. I just went into RockSim and then just scaled it up. So like on this rocket right here, well actually let me just open it up and I'll show you exactly what I did. So I am looking for the Semrock Orbital Transport. Click OK. Save that one. No, I'm not going to save that. That was a nice design, but okay. So here is the Orbital Transport, the original size, which was the small version. Oops, you're not seeing my screen. So I opened up the Orbital Transport. And you can see this was a hard one to make. It's got a lot of parts. Right now it only looks like there's a nose cone and a body tube, but if you start expanding these, you can expand for a long time because there's a lot of parts in here. But scaling it was pretty easy. So if I start out to scale it, here's the original one, is 22.85 inches long. So the length of it was 22.85 inches. And the diameter is 0.976. So that's the tube size, the main body tube size. That's this one right here. That's 0.976 inches in diameter. The new one is a BT55. So here's the new one. And this one is BT55, and this diameter is 1.325 inches, which is the diameter of a BT55. So what I did, first I had to figure out what's the ratio between 1.325 and 0.976. So I just got a calculator. I'll open up a calculator here. And I take 1.325, oops, not 8, 5, divided by 0.976 equals 1.3575. 1.3575. So then you go into RockSim, and then you just go to the rocket, and right here it says scale, and then you choose scale by factor, and then remember it was 1.35. What was that again? I forgot all this stuff. 1.357. 3575. Scale by factor, and I hit OK. And the drawing will be identical. But look over here at the length and the diameter, particularly the diameter. So if we get this right, this diameter should be 1.325. And click OK. And 1.3249. And if you round it up, just a smidge, 1.325. So this is the new super orbital transport. And now we can load engines into this. The one caveat about scaling things up is sometimes the motor tube is the wrong diameter. Because you're scaling up in this case, it was a BT20 to a BT50. And a BT20 to a BT50 is not the same scale factor as a BT50 to a BT55. So you might have to go in here to the engine mount and edit the diameters here. Like the diameter of a BT50, so now the engine mount tube is going to be a 24 millimeter. And a 24 millimeter tube, the outside diameter is 0.976, because that was what the other one was, and then the inside diameter is 0.950. And now it didn't change the diameter that the motor could load into, which is fine, but now I know it's exactly, and it will be just fine. I'm looking at the time, and we're out of time. Let me ask any other questions. Looks like we've got some spammers in the house. Naked Game XYZ. I don't know how they get in here. Carlos says, when wrapping decals around painted tubes, how much bigger do you allow? In RockSim, just make them the standard diameter. Because that's when you wrap it, it assumes the decal is infinitely thin. It's just light pixels. How thick is a light pixel? But in real life, if you were trying to make a wrap around a tube, ideally what you have to do is you paint your rocket and then get your calipers out and you measure the diameter. And then at that point, now you have a new circumference. You know, your circumference is pi times the diameter. And what I always do here is I add to the diameter. So say I measure this one. It's been painted. Instead of being 0.976, maybe it's exactly 1 inch painted. But I need to make a wrap that goes all the way around. And when I print out my wrap on a piece of paper, that does have some thickness. So if I wrapped it, if I made it exactly the diameter, I'm going to be a little bit short, or the exact circumference, I'm going to be a little bit short because the paper has a little bit of thickness. So what I do is I'll take the diameter of the tube and add 0.006 inches to that. So now when I go around the circumference, instead of multiplying pi times 1, which is with the diameter that I measured, I'll add 0.006, so it's 1.006 times pi. And when I wrap that around, I'll be pretty close on my decal. And that's kind of how I make decals, particularly if we're doing things that, not so much the water slide decals, because they're so thin, but our vinyl decals, if we make vinyl decals for a kit. The vinyl is about the thickness of a piece of paper, so I use that as my standard. 0.006 inches, add that to the diameter, and then multiply that times pi. So you're getting a little bit of math here. You didn't know this was your math lesson. But this is rocketry. This is rocket science, and we have to put the science back into rocketry. So very, very good. Danielle Bradley says, I totally get what you're explaining. My STEM program is ramping up this fall, and my daughter is going to be in 6th grade, and we are going to be turning in and getting ready for TARC 2023. Cool. TARC 2023. They've already got the rules out, so people can get started and you can register your team. You don't have to wait till the fall. You don't have to wait till school starts. You can, if you know your team, get it registered early, get flying early. The people that fly the most often do the best. TARC is a hard event. You just can't show up with the rocket and fly it for the first time and expect to do good. You got to dial it in. Okay, so we are well past our time, and we did get past We did get past the hour without technical glitches. I'm so happy. Yeah, so thanks for coming, and we will be back next week. We will be in the month of August. So until next week, go out and fly something.